We'd like to start today by acknowledging that we're on the unceded sovereign lands of the Gadigal people and pay our respects to elders past and present. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Hey, welcome to So You're Disabled. This episode is brought to you by Spoonie, the world's first social network for neurodivergent, chronically ill and disabled people.
Hey, I'm Soph, I'm disabled and my pronouns are she, they.
I'm Tam, I'm living with a disability and my pronouns are she, her.
Well, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about energy. And funnily enough, today, neither of us have a lot of energy. And it's been one of those days where a lot of things just don't go to plan and haven't really worked out. And I think that we wanted to record anyway because that's the reality of being disabled, but also just being a human being. And we want to be as authentic as possible in all of the content we create. So here we are. And we don't know what's going to come of this. We don't even know if we're going to post this. But I'm opening with this and I'm throwing a bit of a curveball to Tam because I didn't even tell her I'm going to open this way. But yeah.
Well, it's a great opener. Thank you, Soph. Honestly, I am so exhausted right now. Have you ever had those nights where your mind is just so active, but your body is so physically exhausted, so you're just like desperate for sleep, but your mind just won't stop? It's like galloping 1 billion miles an hour, and you're like, no, please. Honestly, I was messaging Soph all throughout the night to be like, why am I still awake? I think I fell asleep at about 7 a.m., and I managed to sleep until 9 a.m., but I woke up in that time, and it's just, honestly, whatever I say today, I apologize in advance if I, don't sound human.
Don't be apologizing for being who you are. But also, I woke up to 22 text messages from Tamara. I was like, oh, God, what's happened? Something's happened. And then I opened them, and I was like, oh, no.
It was an emergency. Lack of sleep is an emergency. That was sarcasm.
I think the oh no was like, oh no, I can see exactly what's happened in the hours since I fell asleep and you've been awake, because it was progressively more and more like, oh no, Soph, what's going to happen tomorrow? What are we going to do? What about the podcast? What about you? I'm going to let everyone down. And I was like, oh God, that wouldn't have helped, on top of, not being able to sleep. And yeah, I totally get the racing thoughts, but being exhausted. I think that's a very ADHD thing, actually. But
yeah, I was thinking that last night. I was like, what's going on? Is it that I'm anxious? Is it that I just have insomnia? Because I've honestly been a really bad sleeper since I was a little girl, since I was a baby. I remember my mum saying she was so petrified when she fell pregnant again because she was like, no, I can't deal with another child not sleeping. But my brother just happened to get all the great genes and sleeps wonderfully as a baby and even now. But anyways, I was saying... So last night I was like, is it ADHD? Is it anxiety? Why am I not sleeping? And then I was like, why am I worried about why I'm not sleeping? It's just making it worse.
Yeah. I think being too aware of yourself and what's going on is not always a good thing.
So introspection is not a good thing? Is that what you're saying, Sue?
No, I'm saying, I have this when I'm driving sometimes, where I'll be driving along and I'm just in autopilot because I've been driving for over 10 years now. And then all of a sudden I come to and I'm like, oh no, I'm the only person in control of this car. What if something happens? Am I capable of doing that? Am I capable of responding to that situation? Of course I am. I've got a lot of experience as a driver, but it's just that all of a sudden realization that comes out of nowhere that's wow, oh no, I'm the one driving the car. I have to deal with whatever happens.
So if that also sounds like anxiety.
I think it's to be honest, I've seen that other people have a similar experience and it's ADHD.
I mean, they're quite synonymous, right? ADHD and anxiety. Sometimes you can get quite confused between the two, or at least I find I do.
I mean, I definitely thought for ages that I had bad anxiety until my psychologist was like, Sophie, you have ADHD. It's not anxiety.
I think that's quite a common experience just from like people that have spoken to me.
Yeah. I think ADHD isn't understood enough
Absolutely.
in society to be able to understand the differences between anxiety and ADHD. So I think it's often misdiagnosed as well. But that was a whole lot of stuff that was not about energy.
In a way it was, like, you need energy to have all of these thoughts.
I think it's that, like, I mean, definitely with ADHD, I think the link to energy is my brain can be so very active, but my body is so exhausted. And that is something that I experience quite regularly, that I have a lot of thoughts, even thoughts about, oh, I want to go do this, and then I want to go do that, and then I'm going to go and do this. And my body is like, no.
I know, my body like can never keep up with all the many things that I want to do. And honestly, sometimes it's actually really disheartening because there are just so many things that I want to be able to do. And then I wake up and I'm like, well, actually, I have no energy today. Or worse, when I think I do have enough energy, so I've planned to do these things and I'm really excited. And then all of a sudden, I'm just, like with no warning, completely void of energy. And it's a very disheartening feeling when I then think to myself, okay, that's okay. I'm just going to go rest for a little bit and hopefully like that will make me feel better. But then I rest and it actually hasn't helped. I'm still just as fatigued as I was before I rested. And just knowing that no matter how much you rest, it doesn't help. It's a really shitty feeling, to be honest.
Oh my God. And then the people that are like, have you tried sleeping better?
Oh my, that is so frustrating. It's like, no, Karen, I haven't been able to sleep properly since I was a little girl. Sorry.
But also, like, recently even I've been going through a very, very stressful time in my life due to many things just not going to plan. And that's been really hard. And I was talking to a doctor about this and she was like, oh, well, how's your sleep? And I was like, I mean, not the best, is it? Because, I'm really stressed. And she's like, oh, I think you should work on your sleep because that's going to fix a lot of these things for you. Really, is it? Is it going to help me with the people who I can't control, making decisions that impact me? Is that going to help?
I think that's genius advice from the doctor. Also, doctors have told me, similarly, when I tell them, oh, I'm like, can't sleep, they're like, oh, have you tried exercising? Exercise is really great because it will give you energy, but then it will make you really fatigued. And so you'll sleep better at nighttime. And so I just look at them and I'm like, oh, great. Like, thanks so much. What a great suggestion. But with what energy am I supposed to exercise?
I am almost amazed at how many things exercise and a good diet is meant to like help cure.
Oh, and Panadol. Let's not forget about Panadol.
Oh, yes. Panadol, exercise, and a good diet, especially as someone who is like fat. It is just insane the amount of times that we're told, just exercise and eat a healthy diet. Like, okay, you also have to have energy to do that.
Exactly.
You have to have energy to be able to cook and to be able to exercise and to be able to prepare food and all of that sort of stuff. And especially when you have food intolerances as well, it just adds an extra layer of exhaustion to what is just an exhausting mix of things going on.
Exactly. So if I really relate to that, and that's very much what I was trying to say before, it's just such a disheartening feeling when exactly there are all of these life, like basic things that we have to do, but we just don't have the energy to do it. And honestly, sometimes I am so fatigued and I think to myself, actually, I think I have this thought basically every day. How am I going to find the energy to do all of the things that I have to do to get through the day? And other times I then realize, well, I'm not going to have the energy to do that. And so then I have like these spirals that I've spoken about before, about how I'm just falling further behind in life. And then I just think to myself, well, like I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's really hard to live without energy and really difficult to just keep living in this world where you just don't have the energy. I think I just keep repeating this like fact. It's just so difficult. Honestly, like sometimes I just cry because I'm so disheartened. I'm like, please, I just need to have a little bit more energy just to get through the many things that need to get done. But everything that we do requires energy.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that you said you don't mean to be dramatic, and I want you to know that it's not dramatic. You're being very real about your experience, and that's not dramatic. It is really... I don't think that people who don't experience this could truly understand what this is like. And I know that a lot of them don't, because it shows in how they respond. And I'm sure that we'll get some comments and feedback from people who don't have this experience, telling us, you know, their thoughts and opinions on all of this. But, you know, the people that get it, I think, you know, we hope that this feels really validating for you, because it is so hard. And I know that feeling too, of not having the energy to do everything. And I think one of the biggest things I feel is the guilt of feeling like I'm letting people down. And not just other people, but myself as well. And that's only made worse when you get told things like, you just need to exercise and you just need to eat healthy and you just need to, you know, reduce your stress and all of these things. How am I meant to do that? No one's ever offered me a roadmap to how you're meant to do all of these things under capitalism in a society that rewards individualism and rewards people that go out and just do whatever they have to make money, but doesn't reward things like community and doesn't reward things like taking care of each other and understanding. How are you meant to try and survive and do all the things you're meant to do in that sort of world?
So many thoughts right now, Soph, but I just want to circle back to when you said that you often feel like you're letting everyone down and letting yourself down. And so just like you told me that I'm not being dramatic, you're not ever letting anyone down. Truly, Soph. Like, how can you be letting someone down if you just physically don't have the spoons or the energy to do something? That's not your fault. And the fact that you feel like you're letting people down is what's the problem. The problem is with society that makes us feel that way. And like you mentioned capitalism, I think that's a really big issue here. That is why you're feeling like you're letting everyone down and yourself down, because you're probably feeling like you're not being very productive, or at least that's how I'm feeling when I feel like I'm letting myself down. I often tend to gaslight myself, and because of this like internalized ableism, I'll often say things to myself like, well, how can you be so tired if you just haven't done very much today? And I very much think that comes from people's really shitty responses. Like I had this like family member come over and she was like, oh, I had such a busy day today. I was so productive. I did blah, blah, blah. What about you? What did you do today? And I was feeling really unwell. And so I just looked at her and I said, nothing. I did nothing today because I didn't have the energy to do anything and I didn't have the capacity to do anything. And she just got so visibly uncomfortable and was like, oh, well, like, I'm sure with, you know, a good night's sleep, you'll feel better and like you'll wake up better tomorrow. And this is just such a pet peeve of mine, because this idea that as people with disabilities or as disabled people, we're just going to go to bed and magically we're going to wake up and we're going to just be better and okay and so full of energy, as though we were like a telephone or like a computer and we're just going to like charge it. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I just remember looking at her and thinking to myself, this idea in society that is so ingrained that our fatigue as disabled people, or my fatigue with my symptoms, is synonymous with just normal tiredness, is so problematic and really awful towards us, because it's just dismissing all of our very real lived experiences, and it's really harmful towards us, because then what results is exactly what you were saying before, is feeling like you've just let everyone else around you down and yourself down, which is not true at all. It's society that is letting us down.
I love this pep talk you're giving me, because we were on the phone this morning, obviously, and you were like, I haven't slept. I've only had 2 hours sleep. And then you were like, but I'm letting you down and I'm letting everyone down. And it's just, I love this, because now it's recorded and I can play this back to you whenever I need to. But no, thank you.
Although, as I said, it's all my internalized ableism, hence why that phone call happened.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely none of us immune from internalizing the many, many ableist things that we hear every day.
It's really difficult.
It is. And I think that was the other thing I thought about when I said today is just not going entirely to plan. We got a comment on one of our videos, and it was someone being really dismissive from within our own community, mind you, dismissive of our lived experience that we're sharing, and in particular your lived experience that you were sharing.
I was so upset when I read that comment. Like, why can't we all just be kinder?
I just even think, why can't we be respectful when other people are sharing their lived experience? Like, maybe that isn't entirely fitting within our own experience, but why does it need to be? You know, I think we learn and we grow from hearing other people's experiences. And why are we dismissive of other people's experiences when we're sharing them?
Why are we also judging, like, other people's experiences, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that one of the big things is we're trying to, you and I, share our lived experience to have more people understand what these experiences are like. We're not saying that this is the only way that people experience disability. We're just saying this is how you and I experience disability, and we know that there are other people out there because we have friends in the community, and we have our own community with So You're Disabled, where our friends there tell us, you know, oh, thank you, like, this means so much to me. I feel so seen. I feel so validated. I feel so understood.
And they also share their differing experiences with us, and that's what builds a community.
Yeah. And we want to take care of each other in that community. So I think, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, that comment as well, it hit me a little deep today. Probably also because, you know, the day is not going to plan, but it hit me a little deep because we got this comment being so dismissive in our community that's meant to be a safe space. And then you and I have to figure out what to do about that and, you know, take care of the people in our community and make sure that it doesn't become an unsafe space because people are going to be dismissive of their experiences as well.
Absolutely. We never want it to be an unsafe space. And it's also really unfair when we're feeling upset within our own community. And then I find for me what makes it difficult is, so part of my experience of my disability is, like, don't look at me now and think, oh, but like she seems to have so much energy on this podcast. Like, honestly, in order to have this energy to even be on the podcast, I have to prioritize resting so much prior to the podcast. And then after the podcast, I'm just dead because I'm tapping into all of my reserves. But what that then means is I'm very mentally fatigued. Like, I have a lot of brain fog. So I get very confused. I can't think clearly. And it makes it really difficult when we do get comments like that, because I think to myself, exactly like you, Soph, our priority is ensuring that everyone is feeling safe and no one's going to read that and start to get triggered or start to think that this is no longer like a safe haven for them. But then I'm like, okay, well, how am I even supposed to think about how to respond to that comment when I just don't have the mental clarity to do that?
Yeah. It's really hard. And, you know, all of these things require energy, taking it back to,
They do.
you know, where this conversation started.
And that's the thing, right? I feel like as disabled people, there's so much more for us to consider in each day in terms of our energy. You know, like we have to be ensuring that, at least for me, I have to be ensuring I'm prioritizing rest. Because if I'm not prioritizing rest or being in like low sensory environments and taking care of my health, and I'm pushing myself, sort of like I am now, I know I'm going to pay for that, like for days afterwards, potentially even weeks. And that's part of why we can only do this podcast once a fortnight, because of our limited energy.
Yeah. I mean, especially from a neurodivergent perspective, one of the biggest things for me was, one of the most life-changing things for me was finding out about autistic burnout and ADHD burnout, which I went a long time in my life not knowing about. And finding out about both of those things, and that there are different ways of trying to recover from ADHD burnout and autism burnout that are very different to regular burnout, was just, yeah, life-changing, because I all of a sudden had this amazing psychologist teaching me these things and being like, okay, so when you're in autism burnout, you need low sensory kind of time. That might be like reducing the lights in your room. I have a galaxy light, so I put that on, I close the curtain. But you also have ADHD, so your brain needs stimulation. I was like, yeah, exactly. So what do I do? Because, you know, if it's too boring, then I just go and keep, you know, burning myself out. And they were like, yeah. So what you can do is maybe, like, for me, I play a video game.
Well, no wonder you always beat me at Mario Kart then.
And I definitely don't play Mario Kart when I'm burnt out, but I guess you just suck.
Excuse me, I actually beat you that one time, and I'm really proud of that.
That one time?
Yeah, I never practice. Like, outside of the time that you and I are playing together,
Yeah.
I never, ever practice.
I don't either.
I don't believe that. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say that you practice.
Oh, sometimes. So when my psychologist was telling me this, they also shared that they play video games, and that's because they also have ADHD. And that was really helpful, because then I started to realize that sometimes when I'm in autism burnout, what is most helpful for me is shutting off from the world, not talking to anyone, being able to just close the blinds, turn my galaxy light on, and play a video game, and do that for like half a day or an entire day. And that really helps me to get some of my energy back and to recover from this burnout. And, you know, it's hard though, because we don't live in a society where that's spoken about or understood, or where you're able to do that. So yeah, I mean, learning about things like autism and ADHD burnout is one way that I've learned how to best look after myself. But, you know, there's only as well so much looking after yourself you can do. We also need other people to understand, because, you know, as I was saying, part of how I need to recover is by not talking to people, you know, and not because I don't love talking to people, not because I don't love my friends or my family, but because I just need that time to recover.
I'm so happy for you, Soph, that you found that psychologist that gave you all of these really wonderful tips and you tried them and they do work for you. But I completely agree with you, and I really relate to the part where you're saying that it's just really difficult sometimes to talk. I feel that way all the time. Like, you know me, I do love to chat, but I find particularly when I'm having a flare-up, I just, as much as I want to, I just don't have the energy to speak. I'm just so void of energy. And my family will be like to me, oh, like, are you okay? Like, are you just in a bad mood? And I'm like, no, like, I'm not in a bad mood. I am just way too exhausted to even just talk. Even just thinking in those moments is so fatiguing. Even just looking at a movie or trying to read in those moments is just too much for me. And I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe I am a little bit irritable at times, especially when it's like been a bit prolonged, because it's really difficult. Like, it's really hard to be living constantly with all of this fatigue. And I don't think that we need to put a positive spin on that. I think it's just very valid that it just really sucks and it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I have the same thing. People think I'm in a bad mood and it's like, no, it's just autism. Or like, people are like, but you should smile. It's just better. You're just going to feel better if you just smile and you're just positive and you just think positively. And it's like, yeah, like, I don't think that I'm necessarily a negative or sad or downbeat person. I think I have a healthy perspective on the world that maybe skews a little negative, but all in all, I think I'm a pretty even keel person.
I think you're pretty optimistic.
Glass half full, glass half empty. I think glass half empty, it just makes sense.
But I mean, like, it varies, and it's okay that it varies sometimes. We're human.
Yeah, but I think like this idea that you've always got to smile and be positive is ridiculous. Like,
oh my God, I can rant about that so much, but I think that's better suited for another episode when I have a little bit more energy, because I really, really want to rant about that and like this positivity and like the positivity movement. Oh my God, like I have so many thoughts about that.
Yeah.
But
we will get to that.
Definitely we will. I have so many things to say there. But just in relation to what I was saying before, because my brain just is not able to keep up with all of the things I want to talk about today. So I was saying how like it's really difficult, right? And I think this also links into what you were saying. I think, just like bear with me if it doesn't right now. But it's really difficult, right, when you are living without like very much energy. But then when you finally do have some energy, right? And so you're like super excited because you're going to go somewhere or do something. And I think one of like the most disheartening or just like not so great feelings is having used that very precious and very limited energy to go and do something that turns out to just not be the best experience, like a really flat date. Like, that really sucks. Like, when you go on this date and you're super excited and you've used this energy on this person and it was just super flat and you're like, great, well, I don't want to see you again. And now I don't have energy for anything else for like the rest of the week or the fortnight. And this just really sucks.
I mean, I do love a good bad date story, though.
Me too. So much to talk about there.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying. It is really disappointing when you've got this one, like, lot of energy and you use it and it's like, no, I could have done so many other things with that bit of energy.
So much more.
Yeah. Well, I think that's our time, actually. And I think this went pretty well.
Well, I think...
maybe I'll have different thoughts when I hear it back.
I just hope that nothing that I've said is going to be misunderstood. If I've said something that seems a little bit off, please just bear with me. I'm just so exhausted. Just like my brain's just not really with it very much today. I'm so tired. But thank you for like being along on this journey of this episode with us today. We really tried our best with the very limited energy that we had. And I think that's the most we can do each day is just, do whatever feels right for us on that particular day. And again, I just want to emphasize, because I'm just thinking about what my family member said to me about like not having done anything. If doing nothing is all you can do, that's just doing something and that's okay.
You're doing an ethnic goodbye here because we're trying to wrap up and you're like, yeah, let's continue the conversation.
I'm very ethnic. I can't help it.
Okay, we're both ethnic. We've got to say bye.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here and take care of yourself.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.